So here in Prefabs, you'll see there's a box.scene. And then if you dragged out this box.scene, let's pan over. So this is the box we just dragged out right here. And it's got the physics component pre-made. No. Welcome back to Arcade. I am Super Tommy, and this is a series on using Phaser Editor 2D, what you see right here, to create Memory Match, the game that we've had several videos on, including this written blog series and on YouTube. Look up the Memory Match series, where it's a Mario Party style memory game where we have this character that walks around, and then you can select matches by opening various boxes. So we finished part one by creating this setup here where we have a character that can move around. We created animations, uploaded images, and created a new project in Phaser Editor 2D. So just a brief review here. This is our asset pack.json file. These are the images we've added to our project. We have an animations file here that's added to our asset pack. We created these components, the movement and physics component, that we then added to our player in the scene here. So next, we're going to start creating some boxes. So to make a box, first we got to upload our box assets, and then we got to add some colliders here. So first, let's add some box assets. Go to our assets folder here in the files panel. You can right click here, go to upload files. So you got to remember, you got to upload your files. This is a browser-based editor, so you have to go through the upload process to get your assets into your project. So let's go with crates. So now we're going to use, we don't use that one, we don't use that one. Red, blue, we use these four. Open. Upload 4 files. So here are the 4 files. Now we can import these 4 images to our asset pack like we did before so that they can be used by our game. So here they are. Let's come back up here and look. There's our 4 boxes. And then once we do that, they are available for us to use in this blocks panel down here. I'm going to shrink myself. Okay, so now we want to make a box. So this is the box that we start with in Memory Match. Drag it out here, right? So now here's a box, and if we hit play here, first we save, then we hit play here, we'll see that there is now a box. It is doesn't interact with anything. There is the box. Okay, so first, let's call, doesn't have a variable name. Let's actually reuse our component right now. We're going to call this at the physics component. So that will make it a normal physics body. So if we run it again now, you'll see, oh no, they don't collide. I was going to add a debug. Add a debug so you can see it, the outline. Debug true. Come back out here, run. So you should see, right, so now we have 2 physics objects, physics enabled objects. So now if we go back to this box here and we delete this component, delete, save, run, and you'll see that it no longer is a physics object. So just by adding and removing that physics component, we can add physics to an object. Let's add this back. Now our box is actually going to be a static box. So what we can do to make this one physics component more flexible is let's go to our game components, select physics. We can add property here. So we're going to call this a Boolean property, and we're going to call this static. Label is static. Tooltip is static. You could put more information there if you want it. Default is not static. Save. So now if we go here, you see that there's this static has been added, and it's defaulted to false. So it will be changed depending on your settings here. So let's go to this box. So is static, I'm going to check this. So this means for this box versus opposed to for our normal character is not static, it's unchecked. So you see they have different values here. Right here. Now that means we want to here, right, specify is static, We don't want to do it in the constructor, since in the constructor it is set to the default false value. What Phasor Editor will do is, in the code it generates, after it adds this component to your game object, then it will set static to whatever value you set in the scene. So instead of this, we're going to want to do scene.events.on, and just go here. We talked about this in the previous video. We're going to do once on the update event. That's how we're going to get start. So it gets called before update gets called. We don't need update in this component, so we're just going to use start. And let's go down here to our own code, call this start, and then remove that. So on start, we're going to add physics to our game object and then use this static. So that's saved, it's good. Come here, that's static, let's save that, and let's run. So you should see that bug. Scene is not defined, yes. Physics, scene, this not game object dot scene. And let's do this dot scene. Let's try again. Maybe I didn't save. No. This dot scene. So like I mentioned in part one, there is work being done to enable more static analysis type checking and error checking for you in Monaco Editor in here. You can also use VS Code, and we will go over that in a separate series. For now, we're going to do everything inside Monaco Editor in Phasor Editor 2D. So save that, run. What else did I do? Scene is not defined. Let's just see. Yes. You forget how much you rely on the tools to tell you what you're doing wrong. All right, so you see, here's our player. This purple box is a normal physics body. This blue box is a static physics body. So you see that it is working. Our component setup is doing what we expect. So that's good. So now out here, that's good. So we're going to want to have these two items collide with each other. So we're going to do that with lists. Now, if we didn't use lists, for example, you would have to, I think actually we even showed here, like you would do something like this. But that's, you can have many boxes in your level. That doesn't make any sense. So we're going to use lists instead. So here in the left side here in outline, highlight the lists and then do add list. And we're going to name this, I think we just do create list. That's right. Okay, so we're going to call these boxes. It's an array. It's going to be scoped to the class. Now, here's our box. Now we can add this box to our boxes list. Now let's save that and see what happens in level.js. So editor create, it creates this boxes and adds it to a this.boxes. So the boxes is just going to be an array of our crates, which these are just images. So then we can do this dot physics dot add dot collider, this dot player, this dot boxes. Let's save that, and now let's run it. And they collide with each other. There we go. Not bad. So now, let's go back here. So we have a bunch of these boxes, and it would be, now we could just make a whole bunch of boxes and then add these components to each box we make, but we can also use prefabs. Right click here. Prefab, we can do create prefab with objects. So what that's going to do is basically create a template for you to make any number of boxes with the same general settings. You can then adjust the settings afterwards, but it'll create copies of this box for you with all the settings already specified here. So we'll do this. I'm going to call this box. Let's actually make another folder called prefabs. New folder, prefabs, and now we're going to save this box to our prefabs folder. I'm going to call this box. create. Okay. So here in Prefabs, you'll see there's a box.scene. And then if you dragged out this box.scene, let's pan over. So this is the box we just dragged out right here. And it's got the physics component pre-made. Now if we run it, let's save. Let's do a run. Oh, we have to so it needs to generate me something. So this is maybe save. Okay. So I need to generate this box.js and then import this script. There's probably another way to generate. Let me see. Not sure, but you can work around that a little bit if you just double-click box.scene, open it here, just make a trivial change, and then save it. And then it'll generate this box.js, which is what Phaser Editor needs here. If you see here, I think, right, it's using new box to create it. Okay, so now let's run that again. So now we've got two boxes, both are just not being collided because we didn't add it to the list. So now let's add this to the list, this here, add it to the boxes list, save it again, and do a run. And we'll collide it with this guy, and we'll collide it with this guy. So you see in memory math before, what we're going to do here to create all these boxes is encode. And using a group, we can still use a group of Phaser Editor, but we don't really need to in this case. We're doing this in code to like generate, take what we want to do, turn it into code, and then have to do it, which is fine. But sometimes it's easier to think about things just completely visually like this. So for example, we have this box, so let's just position, we can also do snapping. Let's turn on snapping, toggle snapping. That's a little bit better. So we're going to put this guy here, put our guy in the middle. So we can position this right here. Now let's drag another box in here. Let's space it out a little bit. How about that? Right? Box, box. We don't even have to use the grid that we made. We can do whatever we want. The grid is easier to reason about and code in your mind, but we can do whatever. Let's say this. Put this one over here. This one over here. We'll put this one over here. Right, you can get a lot more creative with what your levels look like. And let's see, we want to add all these, so we can multi-select them all. Let's see, these two are on the list already. This is not, okay, so let's multi-select these guys, and then just add them all to the list here, boxes. Okay, save. So now if we run this, you'll see that we have all the boxes on screen, and we're going to collide with all of them. And we can make our level however we want to design our level. Let's see, 3, yeah, there are 9 boxes here, so that's still good. Right, so that's there we go. So now we've used prefab, so you see how easy it was to take this box and just create more boxes out of it, position it, and then add them to the list, and it'll now collide with the player. Let's see what we got next here. Depth sorting, that's right. Now we're going to do something fairly similar to this. Let's just do this. So you can see here, there's another method of doing this. Let's go down to we want an update. So this is just the level scene. This is just the update method. So just put this here. Save. So we have that, but you're not going to see it because our collision boxes are too big. So here in physics, what we're going to want to do is add let's see, let's call this width for the width of the physics box. And let's call this width. Let's call this width. Let's add another property called height. And then height, height. And we're going to want, let's just say offset x here. Offset x, offset x. I'm going to move myself. Another property, add property number. This is going to be offset y. So offset y, what this is doing is letting us specify what these values would be, like we were doing here. I think we'll show you here. Yep, this set size and set offset, right? So we're going to do the same thing, but with using components. Let's come back here. Here's all these properties. That's good. Looks good. Let's come back out here. And so for our let's do our character first. So we know our guy is actually 64. So let's make him 64. And height is going to be 32. Let's say just no offset. And actually, let's go back to our component here. We should probably give it some defaults, right? So let's just default 64, default 64, and then these should be 0. Save. Okay, so select our player again. Let's see what that looks like when we run it. Nothing happened. Is it running? Run. Oh, right. Yes, we created the property. We actually have to use it in the actual component logic. So here we have all these, and just like before in start, we could do it in we'll do it in start, and then const body this dot game object dot body. Just type this out: phaser.physics.arcade.body. Now body.setSize. Now we're going to use this dot width, this dot height, and then body.setOffset, this dot offset x, this dot offset y. Now we save it. Now let's run. And okay, so this offset is it needs to be the other direction. Or rather, let's look at this again. Right, you see that it did something. What we want to do is move it, so let's see, width 64, height 32. Oh yeah, we need an offset. That's why I did this. Offset x, nothing, offset y, 32. Save. Run it again. Offset y, 32. Let's check. Save. Run. Okay, there we go. So now it does that. So we can adjust this as well. It's just a better match here. We can probably use number exactly, actually. 40, 16, 12, 38. 40, 16, 12. I think I said 38. Save. Yep, look at that. So now we have the same box size as we have in the tutorial. Now we're going to do the same thing to these boxes. So let's actually go to the main box. And the beauty of this prefab is when we adjust this box, it's going to adjust all instances of this prefab. So every box we created, it's going to have this change. So we're going to do 32 height, 32 offset, save that. Come here, and you'll see it's given to all the instances of that prefab. So now let's run this. Now everyone is sized, right? Another great use of prefabs whenever you have to make many of an object. Oh, this one is this is a rogue box over here. Let's go to this top box. Physics box. So I have noticed that this is interesting. Let's click here. So we're just going to keep this one and just delete this one. Is static true? Static should be true, right? Yeah. Okay. It's a visual bug. Let's run it again. Did I not save? Save it and run it. So let's delete this box and make another version of the box. We can make as many of these boxes as we want. It doesn't even matter since it's so easy. And then add this to the boxes list, save, run. There we go. Now this box is doing what I expect. Good. Okay, so we're using this depth sorting logic here. And if you have seen the memory match video series and tutorial, you'll see that there is a problem later when we start adding other things, and then they sort of get depth sorted, even though we don't want them to be depth sorted. So what we can do, since we have components in this world, is to make another component. Let's call it the depth sort y component. Depth sort y. It doesn't matter. That's good. Let's open this. All right, save, and then open it. So we don't do anything here actually. What we're going to do is simply add this component to items that we want to depth sort, and then if the objects have this depth sort component, we're going to do a depth sort. So let's come here. First, let's go here. Now we're going to open the box. Go box prefab, select the box, add a component, depth sort y components, and all our boxes we want to depth sort, as well as our player here, add component depth sort y. Now we're going to update this code here and do depth sort y dot get component child. So if not, so if we don't have a component, we're just not gonna bother adjusting its depth. So set. Now it should have no difference to what the code we already did. It should just work. Did not add the depth sort y to the asset pack. So let's go here, depth sort y. Let's import script to our asset pack. Save that, run it. And that's working, and that's working. Right, so there we go. So that's step sorting, and we're using this component as a way to flag or basically flag game objects and do something only if that component exists on the game object. That's another way you can use components. You can skip this code cleanup since so much of our code is actually auto-generated for us by Phaser Editor. It doesn't really matter how it looks like. The whole point of having clean codes, when you edit them and you have to maintain the code, it is easy for you to do that. But if the computer is doing it, it doesn't totally matter, or it doesn't matter too much what this looks like, since it's auto-generated code for you. And it's generated from a same place, so it's going to be generated the same way every time. So you don't get, you don't have duplicate stuff. It's generated from one base data set of the level.scene file here. Okay, so that's it for part 2. In the next part, we're going to start showing items as you select what boxes to open. So come back for that.